Hello, music fans. We're a bit more than halfway through 2022 now, so I wanted to talk about my top 20 albums of the year so far. But to keep you in a bit of suspense till the end of the year, I'm not going to put them in order. I'll just talk about them in the order that they were released, and then you'll have to see my top 40 video at the end of the year to kind of see which one's at my top, although I might give a few spoilers along the way. Starting with a couple releases from January 7th that were really good right near the beginning of the year. First one was Wilderun and their album Epigon, and this is some symphonic progressive folk metal. There's some death metal, some black metal influences. It's their fourth album, probably their best album yet, but it's hard to say because they've been so consistent. Imagine if Opeth kept doing growling vocals and met up with Devin Townsend and added some more folk influence, and that's what this album sounds like. The first two songs have some softer parts and are a bit folky, but then it picks up and there are parts that get really heavy on the album, getting into death metal and black metal territory. On the same day, Riverwood released Shadows and Flames, and this is progressive Middle Eastern folk metal. It's their second album. It's the first of theirs that I heard, but I went back and listened to their first album, and it's also great. If you're a fan of the band Orphan Land like I am, you'll probably like this. On January 21st, Lalu released Paint the Sky. It's another progressive metal album. It's their third album. I was drawn in by the amazing list of guest musicians featured on this. Jordan Rudess of Dream Theater, Steve Walsh, formerly of Kansas, and even more. They kept me engaged with a lot of well-executed prog metal on this. If you're a fan of Arion and Dream Theater, I recommend this for you. I think I might have skipped one here, so we've talked about three already. I missed that on January 14th, Underoath came out with Voyeurist, and that's some metalcore with some post-hardcore and alternative rock influences. And this is a solid return to form for Underoath after their last album, Erase Me, was a bit of a dip in quality in my opinion. This is their ninth album, and it's good to see them getting back up to their previous heights. Alright, where am I now? Fifth one I'm going to mention, Rollo Tomasi with Where Myth Becomes Memory. This is mathcore with progressive rock, experimental, and post-hardcore influences. It's their sixth album. It's mathcore with a female vocalist, and she can sing very angelically, she can scream intensely, and there's both extremes present here. Some parts sound like synth pop, some like indie rock, some like post-rock or shoegaze that are really soothing and relaxing, but then other parts are the most spastic, frantic, chaotic, extreme sounds with screams. So lots of extremes there. On the same day, on February 4th, Persephone also released Metanoia. This is progressive death metal. It's their sixth album, and it's an epic journey of an album with lots of ups and downs between fast, slow, soft, harsh, and great playing. You probably see this as a bit of a theme for my list. I like stuff that has lots of ups and downs and peaks and valleys, heavy, soft, fast, slow, kind of progressive journeys. What's next? On February 18th, Jonas Lindberg and The Other Side released Miles from Nowhere. And this is progressive rock, very solid and catchy. My favorite track on this would be Oceans of Time, but it was pretty hard to pick a favorite. I like how there's multiple vocalists on here. They have male and female vocals. I hear lots of use of the Lydian mode, which makes it sound very bright, but adventurous, dreamy, floating, and mysterious. On February 25th, the Legion released Damnum. This is technical death metal with progressive influences, and this album is another journey. Guttural death growls are on here, but they also introduced more clean singing and melody than what they had before. Hard to say if it's their best album, because I also really like their 2016 album, Proponent of Sentience, but this rivals that one as well. Alright, where am I now? Next one I'll mention is Animals as Leaders, and they released Parrhesia on March 25th. This is instrumental progressive metal / gent. I think it's the only instrumental album that'll be in my top 20 so far of the year, because usually I prefer albums with vocals, but this is amazing instrumental prog metal, like all their previous work, so probably the best instrumental album of the year so far for me. On the same day, Michael Romeo put out War of the Worlds Part 2. This is progressive metal with power metal, symphonic, and neoclassical influences. And if you like War of the Worlds Part 1, you'll probably like this. He's a different vocalist, but they're also a great vocalist. Sounds like Symphony X, really. Even the vocals are really reminiscent of Russell Allen. I'm not sure if Michael Romeo wrote some of this music with Symphony X in mind and then just couldn't get the whole band together to do it, so just did it on his own. It does kind of sound like that, so if you like Symphony X, you'll like this. On April 1st, April Fool's Day, Necrogoblikon released The Fundamental Slimes and Humors. This is melodic death metal with folk metal and comedy thrown in. It's their 5th album, pretty silly comedic music from this band. They sing about goblins and stuff, but they have pretty excellent musicianship for a joke band, and they always keep me entertained and coming back for more. Also on April Fool's Day, a band called Flummox released their album Reflummoxed, and this is avant-garde progressive stoner metal. And this is their 4th album, and what a wacky musical journey this is. If you're a fan of the band Others by No One, like I am, there is a band member in common between those two bands. This is the first album I heard from Flummox, but I went back and listened to everything they've done, and they are all really great. Really great band. So happy I found them this year. On April 22nd, King Gizzard and the Lizard Wizard released Omnium Gatherum. This is psychedelic rock with a lot of different styles on here: progressive, folk, metal, hip-hop, electronic, and pop. It's pretty much a mix of like every style they've done before, plus they've even added more. I was surprised to hear a couple of hip-hop tracks that almost sounded like the Beastie Boys, a couple metal songs that are reminiscent of their album Infest the Rat's Nest. And then their usual psychedelic vibes, prog vibes, and some poppy, catchier, simpler songs as well. On May 6th, Ibaraki released Rashomon. This is progressive black metal. It's their 1st album. And this is pretty amazing. It's progressive, it's melodic, it's got black metal, death metal vibes, it's got some metalcore influences, so it's pretty much like all sorts of metal mixed together. It features Matt Heafy from Trivium, and it features Isan. There's guest vocals from Gerard Way of My Chemical Romance on one track. You'd be surprised to hear what he sounds like on there. He does black metal shrieks, which is pretty interesting. And next up, I'm going to talk about Charlie Griffiths. He's the guitarist from Haken, one of the 2 guitarists from Haken. He released his first solo album called Tiktalika on June 17th. This is progressive metal. He's got some great guest vocalists like Tommy from Between the Buried and Me on some songs. He has some other guest vocalists as well. He has a keyboard solo from Jordan Rudess. If you're a fan of Between the Buried and Me, Haken, Dream Theater, Devin Townsend, and Metallica, imagine the sounds of all those bands combined into one album, and that's what you'll get here. Really great. And on June 24th, Porcupine Tree released Closure and Continuation. It's a progressive rock album, their 11th album. It's been 13 years since the last one. I love the bass lines on this album, played by Steven Wilson. He also plays the guitars, sings lead vocals. The drums by Gavin Harrison are great. Keyboards by Richard Barbieri. Really beautiful, atmospheric. There's soft acoustic moments on this album, but there's also some heavy metal riffs, lots of odd time signature parts. My favorite track after a few listens is Rat's Return. Rat's Return. And yeah, I had to get this on vinyl. Maybe I'll grab my prop and show it. Yeah, right here. So far, this is the only one from this year that I've got in physical form. But hopefully I'll pick up a few more that I mentioned on this list. Yeah, I've just been listening mostly on Spotify. But the next one I'm going to mention, I couldn't even find on Spotify yet. It also released on the same day as the Porcupine Tree album. It's an album from a band called Bubble Math, and it's called Turf Ascension, and this is progressive rock as well. Their third album, and this one might be my favorite album of the year so far. I immediately listened to all three of their albums after I heard this, and they're all great. Their sound is pretty unique and eclectic. If I had to compare it to anything, it's like Mr. Bungle meets Gentle Giant and King Crimson. There's only 4 songs on this album, but it's 50 minutes long, so each song is about 10 minutes. The opening song, Surface Tension, is 18 minutes. Like I said, I couldn't find this on Spotify, though their other 2 albums are on there, so I had to venture over to Bandcamp to hear it. And a couple more to mention here. July 1st, we had The Deer Hunter releasing Antime. This is progressive rock with indie rock, pop, and symphonic influences. And everything The Deer Hunter puts out is top notch. This is a concept album. It acts as an atlas of a fictional world's last remaining metropolis, exploring its social hierarchy from the outside in. So it explores 8 separate castes or rings around this fictional city. And concept-wise, it reminds me a bit of the Divergent series or the Hunger Games series, but I didn't dive into the lyrics too much. And I think the last one that I'm going to talk about today, and that rounds out the 20, is by the band Seder. Also came out on July 1st, their album Totem. And this is post-hardcore with progressive metal, gent, and mathcore influences. It's their second album. Really great. For fans of Protest the Hero, Idola, and Capstan, great guitar parts, lots of great singing vocals and screaming vocals here. So I hope you found something on this list that you enjoy. If you have similar taste to me, I'm sure you will, but if you don't, then you probably came to the wrong video. But hopefully there's something on here for anyone who likes metal or rock or progressive music. Let me know if there's some other stuff I should check out that's kind of similar to the stuff that I like on here. And stay tuned for my end of the year top 40, and I'll keep probably doing like weekly, what's new, what have I been checking out videos as well. Peace out.